Hey y'all, Jin here, and this is my How to Play Reworked Serah video. God, that feels good to say. So many people asked me if I thought Serah was going to be reworked, and I always said yes, but I still have a hard time believing it actually happened, so I'm so hyped. Also, I'm going to be honest, Serah is pretty simple to play, I'd say, but I wanted to do this video because, number one, I haven't done a How to Play since Vincent, and my girl deserves one as well, and number two, I think if I list out everything that she does and brings, it'll help some of you appreciate just how good she can be if you're new to playing her, so that you don't come back to me and say, hey, you convinced me to pity her and she's subpar. But thankfully that hasn't happened yet, and I think it's because she is indeed quite noticeably good so far. If you didn't see my and Inkwelder's simp battle for Serah's LD, it'll be in the description. And it had some high stakes, since the loser had to pool 200 tickets on the winner's choice banner that the loser was planning to skip. So a big thanks again to Inkwelder for that, and the whole Tonberry Troop for all that they do. You can go support them and find all their hard work at tonberrytroop.com. Also a big shout out and thanks to Brian. He originally donated to me when I was having really awful pools with Fran and Afmao way back in the day. He's a great player, great person, and he just randomly donated me another $15 just to get the flower bow for Serah, because he knows how much I love Serah, and normally I don't get the weapon skins because most of them I don't think look good anyways, but this flower bow actually is quite nice, so definitely happy to use it, definitely happy to have it, and I want to thank him again for that, and always just being so generous. And while I'm at it, I might as well say thanks to ABC as well, who also donated maybe like a couple months ago. And it's just out of the kindness of their hearts that they donate to me, because not once have I asked for any donations. I don't have a Patreon, never planned to start a Patreon, I don't stream on Twitch. So it's just them going out of their way just to show their appreciation, and I really appreciate that as well. Alright, so let's quickly go over her abilities first. Her skill 1 wound is a 2 AoE brave single target HP attack with 110% overflow and 50% splash that batters allies by 20% HP damage dealt. It applies 2 debuffs of 60% max brave down and a poison of 90% eye brave for 5 turns, along with giving her the unique buff Unshaken Will for 5 turns that enables her plus versions of her 2 abilities and gives her attack up 20%, max brave up 30%, and a party aura of defense up 40% and a speed up 20%. Her skill 2, Moonlight, batteries the party twice, first by 90% of attack, then 60% of current brave, into an AoE brave split HP attack with 130% overflow that batteries her allies by 30% HP damage dealt. It also inflicts a 5-turn 30% attack down debuff, along with granting the party 70% attack up and 20% max brave up buffs for 5 turns, all of which are generic. Her EX ability, Ultima Arrow, is a brave gain of 100% attack into a 7 brave hit single target HP attack with 160% overflow and 100% splash if breaking or hitting a broken target. It's only a 50% splash if you can't break. It gives her the same unique buff as her skill 1, while also applying a unique debuff to all called Goddess's Light for 5 turns that is defense down to 40% and another poison of 90% eye brave, along with her generic one. Her HP++ is a brave gain of 80% attack with 120% overflow that batteries her allies by 60% HP damage dealt. She does not have a brave hit with this. She has a 2 brave hit brave++ that batteries the party by 60% attack. Her AA is also a great one, which is a party aura of attack and overflow up 10% for 5 turns. Her LD ability, Paradigm Shift Combo, batteries the party by 170% attack with 190% overflow into a 5 AoE brave split HP attack with 210% overflow. Executed twice and gives her brave refund of 50% HP damage dealt after the second hit. Her LD also inflicts her EX debuff for 5 turns, along with granting her the unique buff Tears of Hope for 16 turns that grants a shitload of stuff, and this is where the LD board rework came in. Gives her brave regen based on 50% max brave, gives her allies a brave regen of 30% max brave, party overflow up of 20%, and when the enemy party has 6 or more debuffs, it grants the party 30% brave damage up and 20% HP damage up. So if there are 2 enemies, you just need 3 debuffs on each essentially to make sure you get the brave and HP damage up effects. For arts, you're going to want triple double cursed. She is the character that I'd say benefits the most from perfect arts, and so inversely is hurt the most by not having perfect arts. If you can't seem to get double cursed or can't get 3 of them, then the next best option is her party aura debuff attack boost all, combined with 108s since she batteries based on her attack often. And the third would be 330s and her debuff attack boost all, but for each non-double cursed you have, you will be losing out on an extra skill use and 20% max brave for herself. So at worst, you can be missing 60% max brave up for her, and her LD buff gives her brave regen based on 50% of max brave, so it definitely hurts to even think about missing out on all of that. So for her spheres, I'd recommend attack and max brave combos to further enhance both her battery and regen due to her rework. So I actually re-sphered my girl as well. So for the E sphere, Yuffie is by far the best for her, I think, which raises max brave and attack by 10% for 3 turns when inflicting a debuff, which she nearly always will do that. For her A sphere, I originally had Trey's, which boosts both attack and max brave by 5%, but shout out to Josh Johnson for reminding me that Yang's does 10% for each, so you know I had to end up purpling Yang and giving her the best one. Arden's also is good in that regard, but will require her to break 5 times first, but then it does have an effect that is permanent afterwards. If you don't have attack and max brave combo spheres, or you don't want to use them on her, you can just focus on normal attack spheres then, which increases her battery. And keep in mind that magic attack spheres won't contribute to helping her battery. Currently I have Porum's C sphere for her, which I love since it gives her some healing, which she's lacking, but you will want to have eventually Paladin Cecil's, or Lilith's Refined or Full spheres, doesn't matter too much, between Refined or Full. And this is for when the encouragement high armors get fixed and you will get all the extra brave gain from them. Lilith's sphere won't proc the armor effect during chase or her HP++ though, whereas Pestil's actually will. I had discussed spheres with Inkwelder during our pool battle and he had helped to point out that then, but I'm going with Lilith in the future just because Serah procs it the easiest and I want to give her a nice full sphere set rather than just a refined Pestil sphere. It's mainly just for looks, but generally everyone should go ahead and go with the Pestil sphere for her. So speaking of Serah's high armor, obviously get it, especially when the rework comes for it. The increase in brave granted will go from 5% to 30%, and it's nice to also have a 10% higher threshold of held bravery with her ridiculous battery and brave regen. When I did a test run of Serah on Y'shtol's Lufenia, at the end results screen was when I realized I had forgotten to equip it on her, and I was also annoyed that my LD ability was below the calls during that run, just because I'm a creature of habit, but I digress. So, how to play Serah. You immediately open up with her LD to get her LD buff, and use her skill 2 next to get up her generic buffs for the party, and that's essentially it. She's ready to go. All her debuffs would have already been applied at the wave starts, so all her delicious auras should be active the moment you use her LD. But since she only has 3 uses of her LD, you should only use the remaining 2 uses to refresh the buff when it's about to go down. Thankfully it is 16 turns long, but it's not an overhead buff, so if you just used it and it got dispelled, that could hurt, so you'd have to plan for it if the enemies do dispel. Also, you have to make sure to keep at least 6 debuffs on the enemy at all times, so if you're against 2 enemies and they both cleanse, then I'd go with her skill 1 first for 4 total debuffs, and if no one else is in her party that can debuff an additional 2, then you can go into her skill 2 for the last 2 debuffs, or the EX obviously if it's available. Another option is to have a call on her that can debuff, and you can just use the call, then her skill 1, then the auras would be back right up after her turn. Or even like a Brand's call can make the auras up for her during her turn actually. I love calls, they add an additional depth to strategies and team composition. So that's pretty much the important stuff since maintaining her LD aura is the most important. Then obviously you use her skill 2 if you want to battery the party a lot, refresh their buffs and or apply the attack down debuff, and her skill 1 will reapply the poison and max brave debuffs and refresh her unique buff, which her EX also does and reapplies her unique debuff. Keep in mind that her EX only does 100% splash if she breaks or hits a broken target, so any unit you don't think she can break, use your EX on the other unit, unless you really need her shaving since her EX is her best single target shaving ability. You shouldn't have a problem keeping up all of her buffs and debuffs as long as you're rotating her skills normally. Her EX is plenty fast, her HP++ is pretty fantastic as well to battery her allies without using a skill, since it's a battery of a whopping 60% HP damage dealt. Her Brave++ also batteries the party and is useful for trying to prevent breaks. Her Brave Shaving, that's not really her specialty, but use her skill 1 if need at least, since it's better than her skill 2 if you don't have her EX up or need an AoE Brave Shave, and it's not time to use her LD again yet. And that leads me to her cons. She doesn't really have many options for Brave Shaving. Her best one is her LD, which you'd only use to refresh her LD buff. Then the next is her EX, which is technically the best for single target, but it's just that, only single target, and not on demand either. Then you're just left with her 2 AoE Brave Hit from her skill 1, or a 1 AoE Brave Hit from her skill 2. Her 2 buffs on the party are generic, which includes her strong attack up to 70%, so make sure to not push that off. She takes up 4 debuff slots, and 3 are also generic, which, like Vincent, I'm actually okay with since that gives me freedom to push them off if I want to. Her LD buff is not an overhead buff like Bald Ears or Pestles, so it takes up a buff slot and also can be dispelled, And since she only has 3 uses of her LD, you kind of have no freedom with her LD, and you just have to use it to refresh the buff as mentioned before. And if you just use it and it got dispelled, that would hurt, so you do have to plan for that. And a lot of her auras are dependent on having debuffs on the enemy, especially the 6 enemy party debuff requirement for her Brave and HP damage up LD aura. So if they do cleanse or buff a lot, her auras will be very up and down. And if the fight is single target fight, you will need to fill up their entire debuff slot for the HP and Brave damage up effects. You can try to bring a bunch of LD call debuffs to help fill it up if need with frame debuffs, and thankfully the debuff slots increase to 9 later down the line as well. Also, like her sister, she's very fast, so you can remove some of her speed passives if you'd like, so that she can just stand there for her auras. But just like lightning, I'm okay with Serah's speed as well. I feel like the more times I can jump in front of an enemy, the better. So I only removed her break speed up passive, since that makes her more unpredictable for me to plan my moves. Serah has no healing as a support, which is why I originally slapped on Forum Sphere on her. And lastly, she is probably the most cursed character in terms of artifacts, since she loses the most out of having non-perfect arts. I already covered this in her arts section, but I do think that most people missed out on how awesome Serah has been before, just due to not being able to have perfect arts for her, which is understandable. That was the worst grind I've ever done in this game. But that leads me to her pros, because even though that was kind of a long list of cons, I was just quite nitpicking, since her pros far outweigh her cons. Her cursed arts actually make her insanely good if you have all of them. 60% max brave up, 3 extra skill uses of moonlight, and a party aura of 30% attack up and max brave up. Her lack of brave shaving is made up by the strongest double poisons in the game, which can come in really clutch in many situations. You can also stack defense down with her 40% from a unique debuff. And while her attack down isn't close to Vincent levels at all, it's still 30%, but her max brave debuff is a whopping 60%, and then you can stack unique max brave down debuffs to do some serious neutering of enemies. She gives good buffs to the party, especially her attack up of 70%. Her AA is fantastic. It's 2 uses of 5 turns of an aura that gives 10% attack up and overflow up to the party. And literally every single thing she does batteries her allies outside of her EX, which is a fast 100% AoE splash EX, or it should be as long as you're making sure the target is or will be broken. She will be one of the units that can take advantage of the Encouragement Armor's rework with the Paladin Cecil or Little Set Refined Spheres, so there'll be a lot of brave refund back for her. And all of this is just her base kit, which is why I've always loved her, and why giving her a busted LD just makes her crazier. And I've already listed out her busted LD buff when going over her LD ability, but essentially massive brave regen for herself and the party, and party overflow, brave damage up, and HP damage up. All the good stuff. And max brave regen is so much better than brave regen, since our max brave numbers are so much higher. And the regens and her overflow auras aren't connected to the 6 debuff requirement either, so they'll always be present with her LD buff. And so that's why when I saw all this stuff listed with her reveal trailer, I was like, she is so good. So good. Hence my initial thoughts video suggesting people to pull for her. Here you can see all her party totals neatly summarized, courtesy of the Tomberry Troop. Attack up 110%, max brave up 80%, defense up 40%, speed up 20%, brave regen of 30% max brave, overflow for both gained and stolen up to 20%, brave damage up 30%, and HP damage up 20%. Ooh. So my final thoughts on Serah. She is a massive aura bot that would be quite useful for just that alone, but she also comes with a ton of battery for the party and strong debuffs as well. So she's not only enabling your party dramatically, giving them tons of brave, she's also neutering the enemies. Square did her justice for the GL version now, and I think in doing so, she has actually power crept some of the upcoming characters too. So I definitely doubled down on my initial recommendation to pull for her if you're still on the fence. Especially if you like Balthier, she is better than him. The only things he has on her is that his auras are on an unlimited overhead buff, but it takes him a little time to get it up, and battles shouldn't last longer than Serah can keep hers up anyways. His niche role of dispelling, Serah can essentially do by pushing off buffs with her debuffs, just obviously not framed buffs of course. And Balthier's main downside is the lack of battery, which Serah has in bunches. And if your team already has a healer and a burst unit, I would venture to say she'd be better than Pestle in those situations as well. Obviously it does depend on the fight and team comp, since she would want a healer and others who don't take too much debuff slots in her team. But you can get what I'm trying to say, since Pestle was hyped up beyond imagination, and she's a great substitution for Holy Absorb fights instead, and does so much battery and regen, even magic resist fights wouldn't really stop her. And her debuffs and poisons negate his defense and HP damage reduction, and his burst wouldn't be used if you brought a DPS burst, or you don't have his burst. I don't have his burst. And of course, who's to say you can't take both together? They complement each other very well, and all you need for a third unit is a DPS to reap all the glory from the insane auras you'll be living off of. I paired them together for a Serah test run on Yeesh Lufenia, which only took me one try with this team that also had no bursts, and it did better than my previous run of Yeesh, Celis, and Aerith that took me multiple tries to make the turn count, since they weren't outputting enough damage. Granted, Serah is boosted, but we are missing the off-turn damage, and I didn't substitute in any DPS or burst unit either. Serah is just hands down great unit, and her 6 enemy party debuff requirement is easily procced, especially now that LD calls and many units inflict at least 1 frame debuff nowadays as well. Alright, either way, let's go try her out, and you can see her in action in Trey's Lufenia. Alright, so surprise! I do have Trey LD. I do have Eald'narche LD. I will upload those pools later. I just wanted to do this video first, so you will see how much those cost me. Alright, so this is actually a team that doesn't seem to work well on paper. I mean by that is because they have so many debuffs, so they're all pushing off Serah's generic debuffs. There's no healers outside of my Serah C-Sphere, so technically they shouldn't work, but the reason they work is because we don't need a healer. Eald'narche's terror pretty much stops the enemies, and all the traps of Trey's that go off will be amplified by Serah's LD buff aura, and since they're not acting much, they don't even need Serah's generic debuffs on anyways, so that's why this team works. And it should destroy this Lufenia pretty badly. They were destroying all the fights before this Lufenia already as I was testing them out, so this should be pretty bad. These little guys are really annoying though, so it could be tough depending on your team. They absorb wind and holy, so they do start with orbs. It does cancel when their HP falls below 30%. The way to increase the orbs is by dealing extra brave damage via debuff, so Trey's obviously would work for that. And then, yeah, they have like red auras that give them instant break guarantee attacks. It could also delay you. They have a yellow aura. It makes them really resistant to brave and HP damage until they're broken. And then they have a blue aura, which is actually the one that you kind of want them to be in. And they will enrage if you kill one of them at the same time. This fight can be launched cheese, so if you don't have a team built to withstand their mechanics, just cheese them with the launch team. Alright, so let's see how Serah and Trey and Eald'narche, I can show you guys how to play all of them at once. And let's go ahead and we'll take I Love Rams with Friends. And let's do this. I do have a Trey How to Play from when this EX Plus was released, so he's essentially the same. I'll link that in the description below. But you just want to upkeep his LD debuff as well, so that's about it. Let's throw down her LD so she can get the aura up. And Serah is perfect with Trey, the HP damage up, the battery for his traps. We're going to play aggressive, so let's just go ahead and base shift right away. A is targeting Eald'narche, which is perfect. Otherwise, you would spam his skill 2 for as long as however, and then you shift after. And let's just go ahead and throw down the LD. Or, actually, let's put down Warp on B, and we'll act right after B. So let's throw down the LD debuff of Trey's. Oh, he's targeting Trey. Oh well. I do have Celeste's call to make him target me. But I think we run out of debuff slots for Trey's EX. So I'm not going to use that for now. I'm just going to use this LD. Well, I'll use this LD after B. So let's go ahead and go with A, HP plus. Ah, target Eald'narche. That's always annoying. Alright. I'm actually gonna go after A again, so let's just HP plus here. And we can get the buffs up for everyone. And now we can LD. A shouldn't be able to attack. Now we got the traps going off. And we get to go right after him, so let's... My EX is about to be up. I guess I'll use one on the AA right now. Even though I just kind of waste that free turn, but just get that up. And let's get his EX debuff up. Gotta love those traps. Please target Eald'narche, please. Let's start trying to charge my EX, so let's go ahead and apply the warp. And let's battery. At least we got one person shut out. B, why don't you attack me, please? We get HP++ here. And let's use a skill to make sure my EX is up. So we'll go ahead with the skill 1. Ooh, that's quite the delay. But instant break, instant counter is too bad for you. Now you're targeting Eald'narche, that's too bad for you. And we got the EX right on time for the last AA. Now we got Terra for 4 turns. This fight is essentially already over. Alright, now we can use finally his other skill. Let's use the skill 1, get the arrow shower. I love the arrow shower trap. It'll trigger after every action by anybody. It's fine, let's use her EX. So it would trigger his trap now, after Serah. And it'll trigger again after the enemies go as well. And then now his normal trap will trigger, his LD trap will trigger. And these are all being HP damage up from Serah and Brave damage up from his own debuff and Serah's. It's wonderful. Oh man, these are some crap launches. Let's just HP plus, I guess. That's why Trey likes a battery, because I can battery him in between those traps, then he would do a lot more damage, like Serah can. Let's go ahead and launch him here. This will be a nice launch. And yeah, I'm just going to HP plus again. trying to figure out how long I need to conserve him for, because at a certain point I'm just gonna abuse him as long as I can, and then I'll bring in Ramza, and that should be it. So now we can rotate into the skill 2 trap. This will trigger a trap after 2 turns on both enemies, so let's go ahead and battery him. And this should hurt. Trey also has a sap from this LD debuff as well now, which helps to battery him some, which is nice. Look at that free damage. Let me check their warp. So he has 1 warp left and 2 tears. And he has 3 warps left and 4 tears, I think. Yeah. So that's fine. It's HP plus. They're getting constantly broken too. It's HP plus plus here. Now let's use a skill. I'm planning to use my LD, and that should charge my EX as well, which would be perfect. The thing is, I don't really need to use Wound because it doesn't really apply any debuffs anyways. So just keep battering him. Her EX also refreshes that unique buff as well. So let's use the EX here. Oh, he doesn't have his LD debuff anymore, so let's go ahead and put that back on. That's the last terror. So we can go ahead and use my LD. Actually, let's HP plus first. EX. Nacho is so cheesy. Nacho cheese. So now let's use the LD. He still has a warp and a terror, right? Yeah, I always gotta check these so I can use it afterwards. Now we can use this EX. This is so unfair. So unfair. This will charge his EX. And we're just, let's go ahead and use the free ability on the actual skill, because I have plenty of AAs to go around. So let's apply warp. Do you not have terror anymore? Nope. Alright, perfect. But he has terror, so we're not going to break him. Yeah, let's not break it. Let's go ahead and use one of these. Get a little battery there, or a regen. Alright, so I'm gonna use one of these. Oh, he got broken. Whoops, I forgot. That's fine. Now I'll use my EX then. Fine. Another 4 turns of terror. This is so unfair. I feel bad, but yet I don't feel bad. Nice little launch here, I guess. It does involve all 3 of them. Let's go ahead and use the skill. Let's go ahead and use the skill too, yeah. And let's see the arrow shower. I have the Onion Knight call for him just so he can get a free ability on his AA if I need it to, because it recharges his skills. So let's go ahead and buff everybody, battery everybody as well. It's so unfair. They're just dying off. Let's save that launch. This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. I wonder if I should just go all out. I'm thinking. Well, let's just launch him there first. So let's double check. They have Terran warp already for 2 and 3 turns. That's so long. They're already dying. Like, I haven't even used the wound one bit. And I have 2 LDs left on her. I still have Ramses Call, Ramses Friend, and Summon. And I like them going because they can trigger the traps. We just HP plus. My goodness. My goodness. Free turns, free traps. Alright, we're just gonna go all out. I think Let's go ahead and use our last AA. I just kind of waste that free turn. Let's refresh our EX buff. Oh, that's not an EX buff, a unique buff. Now let's use his LD. Use his EX. I don't want to use the onion echo because it will bring up, it won't let them go, so let's just go ahead and use the AA here. And we'll use the EX. Oh, now they're running wild, which is perfectly fine. Let's go ahead and use one of our LDs. So let's go ahead and use our last AA. And let's go ahead and buff everyone. And we can go ahead. I'm just gonna do this with no friend, no summon, might as well. There's no need for any of them. Well, maybe friend, because I'm gonna try to burn Eald'narche here. So let's go ahead and apply the warp. Now we apply the EX. They're locked forever. Might as well apply the warp again with this last AA. I don't want to launch you yet. Let's go ahead and use the skill 1 here. Oh, my traps have run out. Now let's go ahead and launch him. Let's get those traps back on, shall we? We might as well use one of these. Give them a free ability use, get this EX start charging again. That was perfect. We don't take extra turns, we just get extra damage. I don't need a free skill at all. Let's go ahead and reapply these. That's ridiculous how many skills he has left. Now we can use a free ability for him though. Help charge his EX. And let's buff him. I haven't used a single wound on Serah. HP plus. Let's double check what debuffs they have. They have 2 tear, 2 warp. He has 1 tear, 2 warps. Okay, so I do need a tear after he goes, so let's go ahead and refresh. Yep. HP plus us here. The bravery gen from Serah is perfect for Eald'narche as well. It's giving him great use of his HP plus. I guess we'll launch you. Or I should have waited and done his EX. Oh well. Whatever. Now we can use his EX. I should be able to kill them before they go twice. So let's go ahead and get my raining arrows down. HP plus. Let's just double checking here. Oh, he's out of warps. So we'll use a warp after A goes. This was disgusting. This team comp was disgusting. Absolutely filthy. Let's just go ahead and use my call, just for the hell of it. This is over. Filthy. What a filthy team. Because the great thing about this is Trey's traps don't need the enemies to go off either. They just go off when we act, so Eald'narche acts a bunch. Serah has battery for everyone, and bravery gen for everyone, and HP damage up for everyone, and this is over. No friend, no summon, 38 turns. They didn't do anything, Jesus Christ. Oh, I felt bad. That was unfair. That was so unfair. I don't know what else to say. And Trey's EX debuff makes everything instant break also, and every counter he does is an instant break. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. That was so nacho cheesy. So nacho cheesy. But that shows you, that's why Serah works really well with so many people. So many people. The battery, the debuffs. She didn't even need debuffs in this fight. She didn't even need to use her skill 1 at all in this fight. I had so many abilities left with Serah and Trey. They definitely didn't need Eald'narche. I mean, Eald'narche was just too cheesy for this fight, but that was how you should play him. You're always just making sure he has Terror debuff and his Warp debuff, and then you gotta play around with his skills just to make sure his EX charges in time, just so that you can apply Terror again, and you gotta make sure you use his AA at the right time so that his Terror can be 4 turns, and his LD is good for using it on the free AA so that you can use the EX for 4 turns of Terror, and then 4 turns of Warp as well. But he does have a lot more Warp uses, obviously, because his skill 2 has a lot of uses. Normally the Celeste call would be great for Eald'narche as well, because you can have them target instantly with the lock from Celeste, but I didn't want to take up a debuff slot. But technically I could have done it early, had them run out the lock and made sure that they target Eald'narche from the beginning, but this worked out too. It worked out really well actually, so yeah, I hope that helps. It did show like there's just so much damage from everywhere, so much free turn damage. That's why it's in 38 turns, even though I didn't use summon, I didn't use burst, I didn't use the friend unit. It's just because of the HP damage up from Serah and her battery for Trey's traps that would always go off. Didn't matter if the enemy acted or we acted. Only his LD debuff requires the enemy to act, and then when they did, they got trapped, and then Eald'narche can go right after them for free turns. So yeah, that was actually pretty fun though. I don't think I'll run this team too much, but I had 3 units that I wanted to showcase, and they just work really well together, especially for this fight. So yeah, hope that helps, and thanks everyone for watching. And I will upload my pools sometime after this as well. So yeah, thanks everyone for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.